Please hate me. That is the title of today's podcast because I have Sean Riley, the CEO of Dude Wipes, on marketing people love. My name is Jacques Spitzer, and his story from taking a wipe that previously was probably known as a baby wipe, calling them Dude Wipes, and creating an entirely new category is an inspiring brand journey. And he's going to explain why you might want to be hated as a brand, why that might be a good thing. He'll also talk about how brand can be used to create the adoption of a category and what you need to do to create more than a product, to create a brand. You're going to keep hearing this word brand as part of this series that we're doing, highlighting people who have created brands, not just marketing, but brands that people have loved. So Sean, welcome to the show.
Jacques, thanks for having me. Dudes listening, gushing about Dude Wipes.
I hope both genders are listening today, very specifically. You know, something that I've always wondered about you, but this is our first time truly meeting. We've chatted a little bit here and there through the internet, but one thing I've always wondered about you is the day that you decided, you know, we're gonna make a brand called Dude Wipes for something that had previously been called baby wipes, or at least that's how I knew them. I'm sure wet wipes is another term. How did people respond to you in your life? Because you look like a genius now, but I have to imagine you got very mixed responses early on.
Yeah, for sure. I think you saw a lot of positive reactions and you saw a lot of negative reactions. And so I didn't quite know what to think about that at the time. But now I kind of always say, like, if you don't have haters, your vision's not big enough. It means you're not doing something that interesting. So
Interesting.
I call the first law of branding, for every emotional reaction, there's an opposite and equal emotional reaction. So in order for there to be love, there has to be hate. And so, you know, early on, that hate can feel a little scary, like, oh crap, like if some people think this is stupid or dumb, like, did I just shoot myself in the foot before I even started? But then as you get into it, you realize that is, in essence, means that you have a brand that people love. So these kind of energy opposite, you know, laws that work in physics, they're the same things that happen in brands and emotions and stuff like that. So we grew and grew over the years to like appreciate that. And it still happens today, right? So you could say, oh, I look like a genius today, or those guys look like geniuses today. But you can also go on, you know, Twitter and search Dude Wipes and see people saying negative things, you know, to this very day. So really having that polarization factor where you stand for something gives you something to build off of. And of course, not everyone is going to love it, you know?
I mean, you just started this whole conversation with
right in
such a truth bomb. It's funny because I had maybe like 2, 3, 4 episodes ago, I had a guy named Jonathan Packer on from, he's with licorice.com, pretzels.com, chocolate.com, caramels.com. And something he said that I was just like, whoa, was he said, I took for granted that when we launched licorice.com, that licorice was such a polarizing product. He said, you know, we launched it and people were like, I love licorice. I hate licorice. Like they were very like passionate one way or another about it.
Yeah.
He said, we underestimated the role of that until we launched pretzels.com because in our mind, we're like, well, everyone loves pretzels. It's literally one of the biggest snack foods in the world. He's like, and people didn't respond to it right away. They were like, it's not that interesting. So he said they had to punch up the flavoring to outrageous flavors in crazy flavors to make it somewhat polarizing for people to respond to. And I'd never really thought of Dude Wipes in the role of that, because I think the lazy reaction and response, and the lazy is my judgment on this, but the lazy reaction and response to something like Dude Wipes is like, oh, are men so, you know, fragile that they need a butt wipe that has dude on it? Like, you know, I think that's probably what you hear the most. But to your point, it's like, in order for a brand to matter to somebody, it has to be for them. And so I'm sure that's how people have responded to this.
And it has to be not for other people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone knows if you try and be everything to everyone, you mean nothing to no one. And that's where people get confused about a brand. And then, you know, especially when brands are trying to be created in big corporate environments, everything gets watered down and let's make it safe. And by the time something comes out of there, it's just bland and it doesn't get reaction. So that's where startups really provide magic to the world, because you have, some dude sitting around in an apartment talking about making a better ass wipe. Like, they're just going to make it fun and exactly for what they want in life. And that's when kind of like a real brand ends up getting created. So yeah, I always caution people, like, do not water it down, especially out the gate. If you need to water it down as you grow to appeal to more people, like, that's a good problem to have. But like, make it punchy, make it mean something to your people early on, and then you can like soften it and expand it. And the number one purchaser of dude wipes today are moms,
right?
Buy toilet paper for households. So it also, you realize you can go a lot of places with a punchy brand, but it's very hard to get attention with pretzels.com.
Yeah. Well, and let me ask you this. So one of the biggest things that you talked about this, or you just mentioned this arc to the brand, meaning early on you have a very specific person you may be going after, a certain type of purchaser. I'm sure the mom purchaser has always been part of the Dude Wipe story, but help me understand, and anyone listening, of course, how that over the years has either transitioned, changed, stayed the same. I mean, I just heard your radio ad this morning, and my immediate response to that radio ad was, someone will find this gross. However, if I were to listen to a radio ad, this is exactly what I'd want to hear. Like, it gives me laughter.
Yeah.
And laughter is a gift to give to somebody. It's like, it doesn't have to be
Right.
boring. So help me understand, what is like, early on, I'm sure you guys had in the back of your mind, like, well, women are going to be buying this too, moms are going to be buying this. How have you balanced that with the brand, the different audiences and different maybe end users?
Yeah. I mean, early on, we were not thinking that far ahead or, that educated. So it was really just like bros, and like, it was a very tight group of maybe 20-year-olds to 28-year-olds or something, like, that was who were using dude wipes. We only had on the go little condom size ones available. So it was like, for your guy on the go, moving, grooving, he needs his wipe on him for like whatever happens in life. So that is kind of the first foray, the couple years. And then you start selling and getting feedback from people. And, we started making more products, and then getting into retail was sort of the moment where, okay, when you're on a toilet paper shelf, 80% of that traffic is the mom buying for the household. So I always say, like, dude wipes is just not successful if that customer doesn't adopt to that. Just, we wouldn't be productive enough to stay on the shelf based on the traffic demographics alone.
Right.
So, you learn kind of like, okay, these people are going to buy it in that situation, and how can you loosen up the language, loosen up the marketing without, losing that pizzazz, like you're talking about with the "'Twas the Night Before" shit miss radio ad. Like, we also,
I thought you were going to say crap miss, so I'm surprised it was shit miss, to be honest.
don't want to lose those that authenticity, but at the same time, yeah, you grow and evolve as a brand, as a person every year. So like, be okay with that, be looking for opportunities to do that, while maintaining your edge. I would say that's the double-edged sword of going from 1 million to 100 million. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to appeal to the masses, but you're not going to want to appeal to all of them and bland it down too much, because then you'll kind of lose your magic. And over the long term, you'll erode that sort of punchy position you had in the market,
Yeah. It's interesting. I've found in my career, now, man, I feel old saying this, but over the last almost 15 years, that you mentioned this idea of something being, polarizing and turning people off. But there is a reality that just being around long enough, also, it's like eventually you get that consumer, even if their first reaction is negative. And I'm trying to think of, I can think of many examples. I think Manscaped is a really great one, where I think early on, I think there's people that were like, oh, this is ridiculous. Like, what do you mean a trimmer just for this? Like, what do you mean, you're going to do this? And while there were people that responded positively, I'm sure there's been millions and millions that responded negatively. But then over time, I would argue that maybe just the fact that it's in market there kind of like wears people down to the point where like, all right, fine, I'll try it. Right. I don't have any proof that exists, but other than my own experience, maybe with certain ads or certain brands, and I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous. And then I kind of felt that way when I first saw Liquid Death. I was like, oh, give me a break. Yeah, it looks like a beer can. Like, okay. And then I like actually tried one, and I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty good water. It's pretty tasty. Then I find myself drinking that, and I'm like, ooh, sparkling. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm a huge consumer of this product, even though my initial response to the brand was like, this is not for me. I don't really like it, but I noticed it. And so I don't know, have you seen or felt that at all with Dude Wipes, that people maybe shifted how they perceive it as it just was more and more in market?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a brand, no matter who you are, takes a long time, to build, and the longer you're around and the bigger ways you're around, you just have that legitimacy, that people perceive this as more legitimate, more quality. Hey, I'll give it a shot. I will say the real underlying storm that gets all of that going is a quality product. So quality product results in retention.
Yep.
Oh, use these ass wipes from Dude Wipes. They did such a better job than toilet paper. Oh my God, that's great.
Yep.
And then I'm going to tell a few people about it. So word of mouth, in my opinion, is the most powerful form of marketing, way better than any ad that anybody could ever run.
Yeah.
So when do
you think people are talking about Dude Wipes, or do you think that they're going to someone's home and they use the restroom and they see it on the top of the toilet and they're like, I've always wondered, and then they try, or do you think people are like having conversations about this? I'm curious, because it is such a private thing.
They're definitely doing both, but they're definitely having conversations about it. And when first couple years of the brand, we had zero marketing budget, so we relied on word of mouth. So we would ship out Dude Wipes to frat houses and just have them infiltrate the place, and guys pass them around, and people in campus are talking about them, and then they're ordering them off Amazon and stuff like that. So yes, and I would say one thing we realized that our brand did really well, which was like kind of the idea, but once it's in market, you're like, oh, that's special, is the allows for the word of mouth. So Dude Wipes is fun, cool, people talk about it, right? If we would have called this something blander or less punchy, you would have maybe kept it more personal. And that's why this category in general, this subsegment of toilet paper, hadn't really caught on until we entered it, because a brand didn't come into the category that drive word of mouth enough. So like Liquid Death, like people have made canned water before, it never caught on.
Right.
Liquid Death has come in, death to plastic, encouraged that conversation, that word of mouth, that shareability. And now I go to the store and I see a can of Dasani, so it forced the conversation and the adoption in the category by, so that is the magic of a brand.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good brand, if people don't want to talk about it, word of mouth.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's another thing I think it's interesting to talk about. You can be successful without having a good brand, and you can not spend a lot of money on brand marketing and not go for that position and drive down price and make innovative product. Like, it's not for everybody, but what you really have to understand, to have a great brand, you need to have emotional connection. You need not to be for everyone. You need to do these Dude Wipes, Liquid Death-esque things, chubbies, to really have a brand, but you can still have a nice looking package and a good product.
Yeah.
And $50 million business. You know what I mean? You just want
you're so right.
breakout moments.
Right. Well, you're so right. You can have a great product, and you can make money without having a brand. I will say, though, that the caution that I would have as well is, I think often, like we've done a lot of work with Dr. Squatch over the years. They exploded, from 3 million in sales to hundreds of millions in sales. And I always ask myself, why did they explode past and outpace someone like a Duke Cannon, who is a very similar product, almost twice the size, similar cost? Why? Why did that just explode past? I'm like, well, at the end of the day, it was brand, right? It may be a little bit of product, sure, but they both have a Pine Tar Bar. They both have Bay Rum. And so
they both have quality. You're saying, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and so I'm like,
quality.
So I think the thing I would say is, the thing that Dude Wipes did was, it was an early player that went hard into the brand. Had you not done that, then there could have been someone else who saw what you were doing, called them man wipes, went to distribution first, and then you're crushed. And I do see that happen from time to time. When you said, you can have a great business without brand, but I would say it's also a liability, because someone comes along with a brand and a similar product in a better marketing and distribution strategy. And the reason I say that is we get hundreds of inquiries a month. I have a lot of conversations with people that were like, I was at 80 million, I was at 100 million, and now we're turning at 25 million because we lost our shelf space and we lost our momentum and our influencer strategy started drying up. And it's like they had the reverse trend because they don't lean into brand from day one. Then you have.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And brand is whatever you want to call it, the moat, the sauce. Like, you can keep people off of what you're doing with a great brand.
Yeah.
And it's more expensive to run a business without a great brand, because it's just, you have to pay everything you're going to get.
Yeah.
That word of mouth flywheel is not running in the background. So yeah, I think it's not a position in the market that like I would like to get into, having a weak brand and not having that brand first punchy mentality.
Yeah.
But I do see a lot of people, hey, I want to do what Dude Wipes is doing with our brand. And I do kind of just sometimes wonder, well, that might not be your position in the market. That might not be the best business plan for you. And so it's different for everybody, but you should try and have some sort of brand. I just caution, some people should be spending more money on building brand than other people. And you want to have a mix of performance, trade, innovation, brand, spend, all those things,
100%. So let me ask you this. You mentioned recently, I think I saw it on LinkedIn, that when people meet you, they're like, and they use a product or know the product, they get excited, right? They have a reaction, a positive response. I'm curious, what is your reflection on that? What are they responding to?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was trying to say, like, people who I meet in person who use Dude Wipes, I generally like vibe with that person.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is the energy that Dude Wipes is giving off is, by design, don't take life too seriously, have fun, sort of just positive brand.
Yeah.
So guess who that attracts?
Yeah.
People who don't take life too seriously, who are positive, are having fun. So when I meet somebody and they're like, I use Dude Wipes, oh my God, you're the founder of Dude Wipes, like those conversations, immediately I'm like, 9 out of 10 times, typically this is my kind of person that I would like hang out with in real life or get along with or vibe with. So I think it is like the energy you put off is the energy you attract. And so it is kind of amazing that, millions and millions of people use Dude Wipes at this point.
Yeah.
And those are kind of mostly those type of people, that type of like archetype. And, it's just kind of funny when it plays out in real life. And on the contrary, when I meet somebody, doing a trade show and you hand out 50,000 Dude Wipes, you're going to meet a lot of people who are like, who needs this? This is stupid. It's usually kind of a negative person, somebody who takes life too seriously, someone who I normally wouldn't vibe with 9 out of 10 times, that person who doesn't like Dude Wipes. And they're just almost immediately being a hater without kind of wanting to hear the story, know about the product. And that's fine. Those aren't customers we're trying to win. Those aren't people that we're trying to win. And those can be all types of people. Like, yeah, we define Dude as that fun-loving person. Like, mom buys Dude. Dude's used by the little sister, the little brother, the husband, all of those things. But it's used by a certain type of person who looks at life a certain type of way,
What's funny is when I originally was responding and reacting to that, I took it so much deeper than that. I was thinking, which you're totally right. Like, what you were intending was that. And I started thinking about things like just because I really have a strong belief that time spent with any sort of brand grows an affinity towards it that is so fascinating. I think about something like Dude Wipes, and one of the things it would be easy to overlook is the fact that for many people, this is a product they use every single day, depending on the regularity, right? And so it's like, how many products do you use every single day? I think about the way that I feel towards the woman who's been cutting my hair for 10 years, my personal trainer for the last 3 years, people that I see regularly just as much as my friends. And it's like, these people are my family, and it's like, just time spent equals affinity when it comes to anything. And that's what I was thinking. Wow, like all these people are meeting you, and you might have been part of their life in some small way through their brand. And that's how I took that. And now you're like, no, it was more the energy. I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I think there is something to that. It's like a metaphysical connection. Like, oh my God, I've, been using this product for 700 days in a row. Right. Like, it's dude wipes, and now this guy's dude wipes. And like, so there is something weird there that happens too. But no, you make a good point about like the frequency of usage just makes, the bond grow stronger. And we do love that we're in this everyday sort of scenario, and where, you're using our brand a lot, but you read all the Byron Sharp, how brands grow stuff too. And you do have to understand consumers are consumers, and they're most likely users of your category. And so there's diehard dude wipes users, but most people, if dude wipes are out at the store, they're going to buy something else. They just don't want to use toilet paper. They need that wet ass wipe. They're going to get way.
It's hard to go, but you can't go back.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always, you always have to appreciate that too. You don't want to like have a big ego about your brand. Like, you're only as good as your last experience. You're only as good as being available for that customer, because they will switch. They will try other things just to be curious sometimes. And so, brand really helps loyalty. But like, I in no means think that like, oh, you're a dude wipes user. Like, you love dude wipes, you're never going to switch. I think that's a very small, percentage of brand users in any category.
You're so right. I mean, you're so right. I'm going to, well, I'm not going to be creepy, but I'm like, I do want to put what you just said on repeat so I don't forget it. I was like, that would be creepy to do that. But I mean, the idea of it's almost, and again, it's funny how much of this is almost just like relationships too, where I think we've all had those moments where like a relationship will shift on you because of whatever reason. Could be someone leaves, leaves like, moves, or it could be something, simple, but it's like the relationship can change. And especially with something like purchasing, it's so fickle. I mean, there are so many things where I love the products I'm using and I would even recommend them to somebody else, but then something comes along that's similar and I'm like, yeah, I want to try it. I'm curious. Like, everyone's sort of curious, and I think that's really fascinating. I am curious.
That's why you got to keep innovating and delivering product, because like, that will keep elevating your brand and creating more loyalty. And hey, this is what we stand for. And it's as simple as you got to be available. Like, dude wipes aren't in Costco right now. So guess what? When you go to Costco, you're buying somebody else if you're buying the category.
Right.
It's like, as we've grown, distribution is such a key part of building your brand, because now I'm trusted more, we're available more, we have less chances to lose you. When your distribution is smaller and smaller, if you're just selling soap D2C, before Dr. Squatch was at Walmart, I was switching, because somebody else was there. But, now that they're at Walmart, their brand affinity, their loyalty takes another step because you have another chance to get them.
Totally. So with the process of building a brand, one of the things I before you even came on, I was like, I got to ask this, is I feel like in anyone's journey, you're going to have something that you're sort of most proud of in the process of building a brand. Like, man, I'm so glad we did this. It worked out really well. I'm glad we did it. But then there's probably also going to be something that you're like, we did this, and whether you regret it or it was just a waste of time and money. I'm curious, what are those two things that may or may not stand out in your mind on the sort of ends of the spectrum of this was really great and this was something that I wouldn't recommend doing again for our brand?
Yeah. On the not recommend side, it's pretty easy because we've tried to extend the brand. And that ended up being, a mistake, but a necessary one to have those learnings. So we tried to kind of start also being Duke Cannon and Dr. Squatch, like, hey, we have dude soap that you can buy and dude deodorant and like, making these other products and putting them the dude name and having sort of that arrogance that our brand can mean so many different things, which is a mistake. I think Dr. Squatch sells toothpaste. I don't think they will for a long time. Dr. Squatch means bar of soap. Maybe they'll get some other little body care product in there to catch, but generally line extensions are a failure because we live in a world of category kings, where the brand name in the category typically always means that Gillette's deodorant is a fail too, Dollar Shave Club's line extensions, it's a shave brand. And so we made that classic mistake that Jack Trout and Al Reese, would warn you against in 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing, the law of the line extension, that basically it's never going to work. We did all those things, and it's great that we did them early on because we realized they were a waste of energy and time and that we needed to scrap them. And then they're not sitting in the back of our mind when we're larger saying, ooh, we should try those things. They've been done, and we're just focused on being kings of the toilet paper category, which is a, $14-15 billion category in the U.S. that we represent about 1% of. So the goal is 2%, 3%, 4%. Like, this is a simple business plan. Being focused is simple. It's very hard to execute being focused.
Yeah.
And so we made decisions. Being unfocused is our blessing and curse,
Yeah. Well, Sean, I will say, I think you might have just, because I think about it and I'm like, does dude shampoo sell? No. But does dude poo sell? Maybe. Should have had dude poo.
Dude poo.
I'm just saying. It's not too late. Oh my gosh. No, I sorry, thanks for bearing with me on that one. But no, it is interesting. I have seen, so let me ask you this back, because I know it didn't work for dude products, but I have seen it work well. So like Yeti, obviously they have their expensive coolers. They come out with the tumblers crush. I've seen, speaking of Dr. Squatch, like I've seen them do soap. Their licensing products crush, in terms of Star Wars and Harry Potter. But they also made a huge dent.
Soap.
Yeah, still soap, but then they made a huge dent with deodorant as being something that people can come into the brand. But to your point, I think one of the things that we tell our partners too, very similarly, is that you can become unfocused because there's only one reason. Like, people come to your brand as an entry point for one reason. You can still start selling a ton of other things. I mean, Ridge this year launched rings, and they'll do $20 million in rings. You know what I mean? It's like, that's crazy. It's not their main product, but it doesn't hurt, right? They already have the audience. They already have the brand affinity. So I've always struggled with it because I just think about how many brands have been able to successfully navigate, like Native that we work with them. Like, they went from just deodorant to body wash to hair care, and even sun care, and they're crushing, across those different categories. So it's interesting because let me ask you this: would you say they did not work, or they failed, or you wish you hadn't done it? Was it in relation to, like, you couldn't move it, you couldn't get it into retail, or just in relation to how much runway dude wipes the whites had? I'm so curious because I get what you're saying. I've seen people get distracted with things that will never drive new purchase of the core product. But why did you feel like it was a distraction or failure?
Yeah, for sure. Like Coors Light Seltzer, it was on the market for 8 months, trying to line your beer into your seltzer, and a lot of the major beer brands did that, and they come and go. And so I think large organizations, even smaller ones, there's short-term revenue to be had. Short revenue can seem like a great thing, but what does that do to your long-term position in the consumer's mind and your term position in the market that you're trying to be the king of? And you can't degrade what your brand means by meaning a bunch of things. And I think that's why it's so sexy. There's short-term revenue to be had, but now all of a sudden, is that a wallet brand? Is that a ring brand? Is that a backpack brand? Ooh, I don't know. I'm starting to get confused, like that. I don't like that. People can call me right. People can call me wrong. They can say, well, this.
Are you being polarizing, Sean?
Plenty of case studies where that works and plenty where it doesn't. I will say what you need to look at, and what we did where I can really be more confident is your opportunity in your category that you built your native brand in. And so Dude Wipes' opportunity is clearly still today nowhere near where it needs to be. And so we've done this thing in this category where we're just scratching the surface. So it became very irresponsible for us to do anything else with our capital or with our brand.
It can become a huge distraction. A huge distraction. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if I'm in bar soap and I've got 35% of the bar soap market share and, household penetration on bar soap is X and Y. Okay, like I have to do something else to kind of grow now.
Yeah.
We're not in that position. We're in a category that currently only 30% of households use. We're this segment of toilet paper that's going to continue to evolve and change, over the next 10 years. So I would just say read the 22 immutable laws of marketing and then come back to me on like why you are going to be an outlier and be successful when history says you will fail.
Woo! I was like, there we go. Shots fired. Shots fired. And now we talked a little bit just now about what you may have done differently, and we went even deeper on that. What are you so glad that you did?
Yeah. Our early brand thing that we did early on that like got us excited, opened our eyes about the brand was we put Dude Wipes on Tyron Woodley's shorts, on the back of his shorts in 2014. And he was on a pay-per-view fight. He was a main card. It cost us 10 grand to do. We had to scrape and claw to come up with that 10 grand. It was the most money we'd ever spent on a marketing stunt, purely brand marketing, right? Like you're not driving clicks to the website. It's not a YouTube video, something very kind of odd, putting your logo on someone's ass. And the brand exploded that night. We were the number 3 trend worldwide on Twitter, which is usually the other trends were like Cristiano Ronaldo,
Yeah.
So it was, Dude Wipes was going crazy. Still have people to this day. I remember that. So like you realize like if you do something different enough, you can create this connection in people's mind.
Yep.
It being the ass. We realized how powerful that was. Like,
have you sponsored anyone else's ass since?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
No, it's become kind of like a reoccurring staple. We've sponsored his ass a couple times since in his Jake Paul fights. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, as fate would have it, 8 years later, he's doing YouTube boxing with the biggest personalities in the world. We still have a relationship with him. UFC has since banned putting logos partially because of us, because we were distracted.
Wow. Yeah.
For people, and he says, hey, I'm fighting Jake Paul, let's do the ass logo again, and we're right back in, and we saw similar results with those too. So yeah, it was just like a ballsy early on thing, that we did when we didn't have the money to do it, but it showed us when we put the brand out there, good things can happen, and doesn't mean they're going to happen every time. Kind of taught us like take a lot of swings with the brand and just know some of them are going to go yard,
Okay. Full body chills, because that is the conversation I have over and over again with people is I say, look, because I think when a lot of people work with us, they've seen all the different successful campaigns we've done. We've grown, I can't even count the number of brands, probably 10 brands by more than $50 million, in direct, D2C sales in a rather short amount of time. And so they see the home runs and they go, okay, well, can you do that for me? And I'm like, well, maybe, every sponsored ask going to have this response? No. Obviously there's certain things that help to, just like Barry Bonds on steroids hit more home runs than anyone else. Like there's certain things that help, right? In terms of everything. But when you said
brand, when we bring it back to brand, when people reach out to you who don't have an interesting brand, man, it's going to be hard to help you. I can make a big YouTube video and I can try and make it funny, but they have to give you something to work with.
Sure.
Which big brand like idea,
Sure. And I think when you said, every once in a while they go yard, I think one of the things I always say is you can't hit a home run swinging for a single. You just can't. You can't.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's this interesting thing where I think that's the biggest rub in reality of building a company and a brand, is this reality that the bigger the risks, the bigger the rewards. there are some times where you just get lucky. We've had brands out there who someone just randomly, organically posts a video about them, and TikTok gives them 20 million views, and they do $3 million in sales overnight. Yeah, that happens, right? Like, it happens. But and the risk of $10,000 at that time probably felt really, really. It wasn't just feel; it was really big at that time, right?
Right.
Now you're like, no, it's actually not a big enough risk to even feel risky. I'm guessing, a $10,000 investment in something like that, I'm guessing you're paying more now to sponsor an ass. And so, it's just an interesting reflection, because I think oftentimes people want the safety of trying to swing for a single, but they want the results of hitting a home run. And it's like, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other nuance too, because we still see this happen, is all the swings that you're taking. They don't need to cost a lot of money either. Like, we go viral in the news almost a couple times a year.
Yeah.
And that'd be rather like, a football player wipes his ass with the football as a celebration, and we're in his DMs sponsoring a post with dude wipes, a week later, and it costs $2,000. And,
just being smart and being, on top of
smart, reactive, fast, newsjacking, all of that stuff. It doesn't need to cost a lot of money, but you need to be like always on. And so that's one of the things we do well. Like, we're spending money these days because we have money, and like, that's what brands do. And we're spending it on a bunch.
You're investing money, sir. You're investing.
Yeah, investing money, right? In brands, But it's funny, you can still, big or small, you can have those moments that didn't cost you a lot of money, and that's almost like the magic of just being involved in like pop culture or something like that. Our most kind of viral stunt this year was we released Dumpkin Spice Dude Wipes. So instead of pumpkin spice, it was Dumpkin Spice. And we actually made money on that deal because we sold through 20,000 units, a Dumpkin Spice on Amazon, but we got PR from it left and right. And so that case, where you make money on a launch that's supposed to, get a bunch of PR.
I love it. Sean, my gosh, what a pleasure. What a pleasure to meet someone else in this universe who's focused on and doing. I mean, you have more than the brand that you have to worry about, but it's just really nice to get to spend some time with you and learning from you and sharing with you. So thank you.